Welcome to today's episode of CLCI Live, brought to you by the award-winning and ICF accredited school, Certified Life Coach Institute. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode.
Hello, welcome everybody to CLCI Live. Brooke has disappeared for some
I know,
reason.
I see that. Where'd she go?
Gone now.
There somewhere.
She went back to New Zealand.
Yes, we have come back from our hiatus, and we are back with CLCI Live. Be sure to comment and talk to us via Facebook, YouTube, wherever else we are streaming this. I don't remember all the places, but we will monitor the comments. We will answer your questions, address your concerns. For today's topic, what are we talking about?
Control your freak.
What is the actual title of this, Jerome? What did we title this live?
Are you a control freak?
Oh no, there it is.
Yep.
Are you a control freak? That's the question.
I liked a lot of the stuff everyone put up. I don't know if everyone or if it was just you, Brooke. I don't know if anyone else put anything up there, but all of the different tidbits, I liked it. I liked what it had to say.
So I think before we begin, I know we typically like dissect what control means and all of this stuff, but let's first assess who here are control freaks. Shall we?
Yes.
Shall we assess the control freak level of everybody in here?
I'm in rehab. Control rehab.
Thank you. Rehab. Yes. Me and Lisa are in rehab.
Explain. Tell me more.
Wait. Should we take the test? There's a quick.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm going to do really quick.
Okay, cool.
What are you going to do?
I'm just going to give you guys a test.
Uh-oh.
But in the meantime, if you could fill the space with something interesting, that'd be awesome.
Is it like a verbal test, or is it a test you're sending to us?
No, I'm going to just ask out loud, and you guys are going to raise your hand if it's yes,
Okay.
and put your hand down if it's no.
Oh,
Okay.
got it. I can tell you an experience where I was being a control freak. I don't know. It came up to me just a few moments ago. I was with a friend, and they were going to a retreat. And the person running, accepting everybody, all the participants in, was like, could she go any more slow and be so disorganized? So what did I do? I went in and helped her. I gave everybody their papers. I gave them their pens. I mean, let's streamline this.
That's just being helpful. That's not.
That was being in control because the line was moving too slow.
Okay, so are you guys ready for some questions? Some
Yes.
questions? And if y'all could keep track, I'd like for you to raise your hand when you if it's a yes, only for the yes. You raise hand if it's a yes.
Okay.
Do you help other people when they're driving? Tell them where to park, sort of backseat, or do you ever backseat drive?
Yes.
Periodically.
That's a funny question because the answer is no for me because I always choose to drive.
Yeah, so I'm the driver.
I'm
as
not in
well.
that situation because I'm a control freak and I need to drive the car.
So then we'll just count that as a yes.
Okay,
Anthony,
fine.
we'll count, or do you always insist on being the driver?
Then that's a definite yes. I was like 2 hands in the air.
Okay, so everyone but Brooke, you and Jerome said yes.
I'm fine with not. I can just go with the flow in that space for the most
Okay.
part. Unless I feel like I'm gonna die, in which case I will say something. But I'm easily distracted, so it's better. I'm probably not behind the wheel.
I'm totally fine.
I feel like
bro.
it's a responsibility.
Yeah,
What'd you say, Kyle?
It's a responsibility if you're going to be in the back seat or in the co-pilot. You have to tell them what to do.
No, it's not.
part of
That
being-
makes- I know that makes people more anxious than anything. It makes things worse. And I'm always down for a super random road trip. So if we make a wrong turn, then that's
Well,
fine.
it's also I think a matter of too. Like I like how we're controlling about this question. Like this is the evidence right here. Okay. So here's the next one. Do you always insist on being correct or right? So you got one on that one. Okay.
So out loud or in my head?
Um,
Out loud or in my head?
I mean, I don't. Answer
I think
that
it's out loud.
loud. Do you devote a lot of attention and energy to keeping your personal environment organized? Do you give people constructive criticism? Use words like should, ought. That's we've been trained. I like Kyle's honesty. We've been trained it out of you. Do you find it hard to admit your mistakes?
I don't make mistakes, but then
That was coming.
Do you have a lot of personal routines or rules or rituals that you do have to do every day? I'm a yes on this one. This was a yes for me. It's what keeps me sane. And I keep going out of focus, which is annoying. Hold on one second. I'm being a control freak about my autofocus right now, so I can actually be in focus. There we go. Okay, so next one is are you the one who takes over and orders other people around when people seem confused?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll do that. I have to raise my hand on that one.
Maybe 2 hands.
Do you dislike depending on others or accepting help from them or allowing them to do things for you? Anthony is like 500 high fives right there. Do you overplan simple activities?
Yeah. Birthdays. Birthdays. You should have seen what I had planned for Cambria's birthday last year. I was like, I got this. And we did one thing.
Do you have the philosophy that rules are fun?
No.
Do you fight over the TV remote, or are you somebody who always has to hold the TV remote?
I'm in control of the remote.
And do you think other people, or do you think you do things better than other people?
Yes.
Well, it depends on the thing.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
There are some things I think I do better. Others I
So
definitely
how
don't.
many of those did we get yeses on from you?
I have
guys?
no idea.
Track?
So I tallied it.
Uh-huh.
8. I tallied it too.
Who tallied better?
I did for sure.
You can't see it. It's on here.
I asked 10 questions, right? Did I ask 10 questions? Yeah.
Oh, you tallied everyone.
8.
Yeah, Jen's got
she
everybody.
did
So
tally
Ben is better.
Jen
You
wins.
do it better than-
I was definitely a yes to a few of those, even though I wasn't participating. But if you had 5 or more, you could constitute yourself as a control freak. You might need to seek some help for your controlling
Oh my God.
tendencies. You
Tell
may
me more
be-
about control.
So who
therapy.
scored in our control freak category there? Who of us are control freaks?
Kyle and Anthony.
Kyle and Anthony are our control freaks. Okay.
Lisa and I just missed the cut. That
Just
shows that we're in rehab.
True story.
Jerome is chill, like so go with the flow, like water, like it's amazing.
How many did you tally for me? Was it 2?
1.
It was 2. It's definitely 2.
Okay.
Still
We're
though,
gonna
that's
control that.
pretty darn good. I think I got like 4 or so on that one, probably more. I mean, I know I can be very controlling, but I also have for a long time let go of that, like practice letting go. It depends on how much emotion is involved. For me.
Yeah,
Like,
I was
the
just
more
gonna say that.
emotional I am about it, probably the more controlling I will be. The less emotionally invested I am, I'm like, what else, man? Who cares? It happens.
I think I can be the other way sometimes. I think the less emotionally invested, the more controlling I can be. Because like I was not emotionally invested in the. I did it, yeah, the opposite. And the more invested, I tend to wait and see. I think.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
Opposite.
I think I'll have to think about it. Maybe I'm just controlling on both sides.
So we've given some examples now. What are we talking about when we say controlling? What does that mean now? talk about that.
To me, I know this is probably not everyone's definition of controlling, especially when we're talking about being a control freak, but it feels like responsibility sometimes. That's what control means to a certain degree, is that you have a certain responsibility for the outcomes that happen for whatever action or endeavor you go into.
I had a stronger word. I used dictating an outcome, trying to dictate the flow of where the outcome happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I would agree. I used to call it trying to strangle life into place. Like, just try, like, I've got a death grip on it, and it's gonna go this way. But I learned somewhere along the line that doesn't tend to work very well, because it strangles the life out of things. That's when I reformed my ways in many ways. I do have a weird way where I can be so controlling, but it tends to be like I sit back at first and I see what's going to happen, and then I let that come out, like, slowly.
Well, that's what I was talking about. That's exactly what I was talking about. Let's see how it comes out. And
I don't know if that's like more deceptive though. No, yes. I'll wait to show you how to control freak I can be.
I can control my control freak.
I just get you invested in this process, and then I'm gonna come out and be a freak. No. So let's talk about how it can be. Let's talk about how it can be good, or maybe why we do this.
Well, one of the things I think that people, maybe I could do that because it helps me think about the possibilities of things I have to prepare for.
Yeah, I would say it reduces the amount of unpredictable outcomes, maybe some unfavorable, unpredictable outcomes.
So tell me about unpredictability. Why are we reducing unpredictability?
I would imagine it has to do with different fears we have. If we are able to adapt to that unpredictable space, then what happens to us? Do we get angry? Do we get frustrated? Do we get hurt? Do we feel deceived? Do we feel, we've got a lot of potential avenues that feel like it impacts us. So I think we're trying to be the less amount of impact when we try and control an outcome.
Or is it less amount, or is it just that we want specific outcomes possibly too?
I think either way. Yeah.
Why else do we control?
So we can
Afraid.
get an outcome.
What you, Kyle and Anthony, you two are our biggest control freaks, so speak up, tell us. Tell us about your life philosophies, please.
Oh, my life. Oh, I was going to say for other people, it's fear. Fear of a loss of control. So not really that they want to control everything because they know that they can do it best. It's just like having a loss of control is like so horrifying of an idea that you just have to control it. So unexpected things don't happen.
I noticed you said for other people.
Yeah, for other people.
Okay.
Yeah. I know I can do it better, but I mean, it's probably one of the other reasons. Like, I think we mentioned about airplanes. Like, I would like to fly the airplane, not because I'm afraid, but because I know I can fly it better than the pilots. That's not fear. That's just me knowing my capabilities.
And have you ever flown a plane before?
No.
Yeah.
We were saying that we should take a flight simulating class. I think that Jen should, and anybody who's scared, take a flight simulating, like learn to be a pilot, see what it's like. It might actually like help inform you, and so there's less fear in that space, possibly.
Or they'll go, they were supposed to lift the right flutter.
I can start criticizing the pilot.
That's why
Why
I
didn't
don't
I do that?
I think that's why I recently, as of like this past year, do not like flying, is because I don't have control over the vehicle that is screaming through the air at 500 miles an hour. It makes me very uncomfortable just to sit there and not do anything.
Mhm.
Whereas driving a car, I'm totally fine with that because I can control the vehicle and I can stop the vehicle whenever I would like to.
Did I totally drive you crazy when we went to Texas?
Yes. No. No, that was fine. Just my preference is always to drive, but like if other
Yeah.
people drive, it doesn't kill me.
Listen to the words.
Kyle?
On the driving aspect, I have a fear of everybody else because I don't think they're in control driving. I trust my driving. I do not trust others driving because I'm not in control of what they're doing. So I feel like I'm scared of the road because of the out of control that I have. But on the subject of control, I feel as if things don't get done if somebody isn't in control. I don't necessarily have the worry of I can control somebody else and do better, but if nobody takes control, that's when I have to take control. Because I just want to, or just know that somebody, designate it to somebody so things are under control, or else nothing.
Okay.
So you said a word there I want to highlight. You trust yourself, right? More than you would trust other drivers. How important do we think trust is to a person who likes control?
It's a big aspect.
Ooh, how about I ask it a different way? What type of a relationship do we think those who are more inclined to be in control, what type of relationship do we think they have with trust?
Distrusting. Definitely.
To an extent.
For some reason I'm comparing this to like control freaks to like micromanagers. I think we had a long time ago, maybe.
Oh,
That is definitely a symptom of control freakedness.
Yeah. Lack of trust in other people to like get a job done or do things the correct, quote unquote, correct way. Like you always have to kind of be hovering in, checking in, making sure
Right
things
there,
are right.
another symptom of control freakness, the correct way. It's not just get it done, but it's get it done the correct way. I'm just gonna keep going though, Anthony. Don't stop.
But it's a lack of trust because in normal, I guess, work, just if we're talking about work, normal work situations, you have a goal or an outcome or a task you expect someone else to do. Maybe it doesn't really matter how it gets done as long as it is done on time. Then you just trust the other people to get it done. Whereas the micromanager or the control freak, it needs to be there for every step, and possibly, or not possibly, they most likely do that to their own detriment or to the detriment of the people around them. With their control freakness, they waste their time and they waste other people's time trying to make sure things are done right when it would be better to just trust the other person and do your own stuff.
Well, I mean, there's two prongs to that. It's about first and foremost making sure you have a team you can trust in place. That's a big part of that. Like that is because a lot of micromanagers will tell you, well, I don't have anybody that can do it or knows how, or well, then we turn to them, that micromanager, and we go, okay, well, whose fault is that? And how do we remedy that problem?
I don't know if the micromanager is capable of trusting people like that. I think
well, that's
even
the first step. The first step is we okay, then is this a problem of your staff or is this a you problem? And if it's a you problem, then there's a whole space to work in there next. Which I'm not disagreeing with you, but they are capable of that. I don't want to discount that every micromanager isn't capable. Yes, they are capable of rehab. Jen and Lisa can both tell you they are, and myself, for that matter, myself as well, former micromanager.
So that I think what I meant to say is that I don't think it's necessarily the problem that they surround themselves with people they don't trust. Because when you hire people, you're trying to go through that process of surrounding your people with people you should be able to trust. You just don't for whatever internal reasons, not because the other people are bad. Maybe they are bad. We don't know. There's probably situations where that is the case.
I think it can be both sides, but if you don't find a way as the micromanager to stop micromanaging or at least reduce the amount of micromanaging, it doesn't empower the people that work with you. And if you're not empowering the people that work with you, what is that new term that everybody's talking about? The quiet quitting or whatever? Yeah.
Quiet quitting.
Yeah. That's
what I'm doing right now.
What is quiet quitting? Qu'est-ce que c'est?
So quiet quitting happens when you, like, let's say you're just an everyday average Joe Schmo worker. You just do the absolute bare minimum of your job to just, like, the way I think about it is when I worked at Amazon, we had our, like, quota of our number we're supposed to do. So let's say I'm supposed to, like, count 1,000 boxes a day. Well, every time we would do this, we would always try to go over the number and we would average more than 1,000.
I try to beat everybody else, but that's how
but there's probably one guy who's just trying to just go as slow as possible so that by the end of the day he hits that 1,000 and does nothing more than that, or even less than that, because I'm sure if you don't hit the quota, they're not going to fire you. But like,
they set a level of expectation. There's no reason to go over it. I can't disrespect. I can't be like that guy.
That's what quiet quitting is that nobody's going above and beyond their job anymore. They're just meeting the quota.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But like it has to be a change though, because if you're started out as a slacker and just continued on a slacker, that's not really quiet quitting. It's like if you were excelling and doing more at one point.
Basically, their spirit has been broken. Like if they were like at some point somebody broke their spirit and they're like, I'm just doing enough to get by until I can get out of this place.
It's pretty much, and then just waiting to get fired so you can collect unemployment.
Wait, so they don't actually quit?
No, they're just like, I'm going to do the bare minimum until I either get fired and I get to collect unemployment, or I find somewhere better and I get hired there. Like they're
checked out.
In the meantime, F these people. I am not doing more than I have to.
Right.
So I'm doing all I can.
I work 9 to 5. I'm not working at 5:30.
Right.
Don't ask me to do something that's not in my job description. Because I'm not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
When the mentality I guess used to be like,
okay. On some level, though, I can respect the don't ask me to do something more unless there's like a motivation to do more, right? Like if I see that, and that's where the quiet quitting comes in, is they're like, why would I when it's not going to be rewarded,
right,
kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's that glass ceiling. Like the moment you feel the glass ceiling, I went there, I've been there, where I was like, no, I'm not. What do I care anymore? Like this is as high as it's ever going to get for me. So I'm deuces. Right.
So maybe to bring it back to control, maybe quiet quitting is an example of letting go of control to your benefit and to the someone's getting a call.
Hello.
So I guess to bring it to coaching, then how does control freakiness, come into the coaching space?
Control freakiness.
Yeah, control freakiness, they want to give advice, right? And all over the place, we say, coaches, you're not giving advice. You're not giving advice from your perspective. That advice is you trying to control what the client is moving towards. Like, oh, no, I'm not trying to control them. I'm trying to help them. I'm trying to give them a different perspective. But there's that advice piece when you give it from your perspective and not, it doesn't serve any purpose. And so that's oftentimes where especially new coaches will come in, or coaches who haven't been trained will come in and think it's all about their advice. I mean, who are you? And I've asked this to many classes, who are you without your advice? And some people, that's a very tough answer because they're not sure who they are without that advice. That's what everybody comes to me for. Are you sure?
Could the advice giving though be a symptom of like a kind of worse thing, which is outcome dependence, where the coach
Oh, you beat me to it.
gotcha. The coach is dependent on
the inspiration for this. Like Jen was kind of the inspiration, not because she's a control freak, but because she had but because she had an aha moment where she was like, wait, that's me being invested in outcomes. Like that is me being a bit of a control freak because I want my client to be, why isn't this client doing what they say they're going to do, being successful, doing that? And it was a moment where she was like, oh, that's kind of me working harder than my client, being a little bit controlling of what's going on with my client and working harder than they are, pretty much, right?
Now, being outcome dependent isn't necessarily going to mean that you're a control freak. Like I pretty much expect my clients have some sort of dependence on their own outcomes because it's their process that they're going through. Doesn't mean they're going to be a control freak, but when you're a coach and you're outcome dependent, then you have a goal that you're trying to work towards and you're using your client to get towards that outcome. That's where advice giving can come in as one symptom of that.
I said, but you just said something interesting to me. You said that like being outcome dependent doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a control freak. I think that in a large way it does though, because all control freaks are trying to predict what the outcome is going to be. Like every control freak is like, I'm being controlling because I know X could happen, this will happen, this will, and it's literally them perseverating over potential outcomes and not at all being in the moment, not at all being in the process, but instead being hyper predicting what will happen and trying to control the outcomes.
Isn't that kind of what
isn't
that kind of what we do with our clients though? Not like us to our clients, but isn't that the process that the client goes through where here's the goal and how are we trying to get there? And they're taking control of the aspects they can control and trying to move them towards that goal. Us, the coaches, we're not necessarily dependent on the outcome, but the client is working towards that. That doesn't make them a control freak, though.
I would say the even better coach, though, gets the client to be good with whatever the outcome is. Like to be present in the process and to be prepared and cool with any possible outcome. Like whatever happens, I know I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
That's like
there's no outcome.
Ding, 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 where we want our client. I mean, I don't know. That's fine.
I mean, that is, I think that is part of it, but we have to start with an outcome and a goal first, right?
Absolutely, yes.
The client has to have some idea of like, what do they want the end result to look like? And then we're backtracking, trying to work towards that outcome. And if it doesn't happen, then, that's fine. Then we get to see if our client is a control freak or not, how they react to that.
And then we help them with their control freakiness.
Yeah.
I think this is a new word, control freakiness. Like this is like it's something we should coin.
Control freakiness. So yeah, I don't.
Sorry, Anthony. If I could ask, so are you not doing your job as a coach if you're not reaching the outcome that you've set at the very beginning? If you have an agreement with your client and you've completely stirred the right way, there's no outcome whatsoever, have you done your job as a coach?
Good question.
Yes.
I think yes, Lisa. And I think there's like once in a while, that's fine. But if you're like I'm trying to think of like, if you're like a career coach, for example, and your marketing is that like you will figure out, what you want to do with your job, you'll get hired, and consistently none of your clients ever gets hired, there's probably a big problem.
But this is the thing. This is like every one of those coaches that are coaching other coaches, like that are like, hey, I'll get you. You're going to be making 9 figures. You're going to be doing all this stuff. They have no accountability, and it drives me crazy because they're like they end up flipping it all back on the other people if they don't get their success. There's no like money back guarantee from those people. That's not happening. But what they do is they either do 2 things. They're either really good at selling how good their process is, regardless of outcomes, or they're also really good at getting the client to admit that it's their fault, like their thing, like that it was my fault that it didn't happen. Or I guess the third thing is that they're really truthfully, it becomes not about that, and it becomes everything else that they learned or picked up in the process, which I think is what happens a lot of times. Is like they get a whole bunch of other things that they weren't expecting, and that becomes enough. Is that a good business model necessarily? I don't know, because I've also gotten clients from the people who were pissed about not getting what they wanted. So
Yeah, I would. My advice.
I'm going to interrupt. I'm raising my hand. Hello. I want to go back to what Kyle said, though, because that piece of 1 + 2 = 3, if the client says I got to reach this and this is what I got to do, it's about also allowing for the adaptability for that client to realize that that's not what they want. So to answer that question that you were posing, Kyle, yeah, it's about learning who they are and what they want, and allowing the process to help them find that space and their ownership on how they want to proceed with that. And in the end, they might find out, okay, like example, somebody in one of the classes was talking about how his parent forced him to play piano, classical piano, and that is not something he was ever interested in, not ever. But they had goals for him, so he took on the ownership of, these are the goals, this is what I have to accomplish. But given the space to come up with whatever it is that he wanted to do at the end, he wanted to be a rock and roll piano player. I don't know what you call that, but he wanted to be something different than what he was. And so then it became, how do I move in that place? How do I not disappoint my parents, but still live, right? So you can see how that changed.
I think that checking in is a huge part of this process. Like that moment of reminder, okay, this is where we started, we're going here, is this where you want to go? And sort of doing that reassessment, that continuous reassessment with the client, and not being so fixated on the first goal that you can't adapt to things as your client adapts and changes. Because it's one of those things of when you switch from coaching the person or coaching the problem to coaching the person, a lot of times the outcome and the goals become very different from where you start, because they start to get to deeper places. They come in with something very superficial, and then it takes on more and more life as you get deeper and peel the layers back. But did you not do your job if that's what you two agreed on? Absolutely you didn't. But
you also don't promise things that you can't possibly deliver and don't have control over. If I was like a weight loss coach and I said, if you coach with me, you're going to lose 50 pounds, I can't control, or I don't even have that level of control of what the other person does the time we're not coaching. So if I don't meet that outcome, that is a failure on my part, because I promised something I can't reasonably even deliver on. Now, if I just said I was a weight loss coach and my client came up with the goal to lose 50 pounds, they're taking ownership of that goal and they're having control over that. All my job is to find out how they're going to get there and let them be in the driver's seat. And if they're in the driver's seat and not pushing on the gas pedal, then I can't control that. And as a coach, you got to let go of that sometimes. I've had times where I've met with clients, we've established what they're going to be doing in the week until we meet next time. Next time we meet, they didn't do any of that. They did other things that were productive, but they didn't do what we agreed to work on. And, that's part of not having control as a coach. Your clients are going to do a lot of strange things or a lot of different things than what you plan to do, and it's just your job to adapt.
So, everybody, what is the difference between controlling, because trying to help that client come to their outcome, versus motivation? What's the difference between controlling and motivation?
So that client who you follow up with that didn't do what they said they were going to do, the control freak coach is going to they're going to stay stuck on that, and they're going to keep trying to, make that happen. Whereas the coach that's going to flow with that client is going to go deeper on what happened. Why didn't they? What got in the way? What was challenging? And then potentially that wasn't the step. Potentially a new step emerges from that exploration of why they didn't do what they said they were going to do. And it's with a new awareness and a new motivation, because it's a deeper layer of motivation rather than just a surface layer. At least that's what I see sometimes.
I guess in my specific example that I gave, it turns out that my client wasn't motivated to do what they said that they would do. They intellectualized and knew this is what I should do to get X, Y, and Z. And they weren't motivated to do that at all. And when we explored that, that came to light, and it figured like she didn't need to really do that at all. She wanted to do she wanted to, and then she did different things with her own time. So I asked her, so why are you spending time trying to do things you don't want to or need to do? And she had her little light bulb moment, and we just said, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. We'll do the things you want to do instead. And she was very happy with the results that came from that later.
And that brings up a good point, and not exactly control related, but emotional relevance. The importance of emotional relevance when you're doing these goal setting is asking that question: why are we doing this? Like, why? What will it do for you? What does this mean to you? What is motivating you? This is hugely important. I think a controlling coach wouldn't care and would be like,
Right.
okay, this is what you're doing. And we've set a plan and we're sticking with it, and wouldn't be willing to or want or care so much about the why and what is motivating the client. I do want to talk about sneaky control. How can it sneak in and be sneaky for us as coaches?
Leading questions.
Trying to rescue your client.
Control freaks know what's up.
Leading questions is a huge one. Like, because those happen inadvertently all the time. Where we insert. Give an example of a leading question. Anybody? I can do it if I was coaching somebody without even thinking about it. I'm sure. Did that make you feel sad?
Yeah.
Were you upset?
Versus how are you feeling?
Mm-hmm. Or I mean, there's a lot of other ways. That's a very sort of on the nose ways, but there's sneakier ways that leading questions. I'll look.
Sometimes like I've caught myself doing this, which is like asking questions and presenting it as a binary, where one is like the more obvious, reasonable choice, and the other is like a kind of a straw man. Which the reasonable, obvious choice is like just my advice, just dressed up as a question, with a straw man, which is obviously the wrong answer. Which I've stopped myself and be like, okay. And I try to reframe the question so that there's like a multiple answers and more open-ended, but it's one easy way to do it.
That is a great point. Sneakily, that's a sneaky way, like to present anything, like to present options, and two of them, if it were black and white, and then one that's obviously not good, one that is obviously a better choice, but what are we doing right there? We are leaving out all of the gray for our clients. That is a sneaky control moment for sure. Good example.
Like, do you want to apply for this job, or do you want to be a failure for the rest of your life? It's your choice. What do you want to do? You're the client.
I think though that's another sneaky control moment is giving praise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one of those, I mean, we're reward, because that's what control, I mean, a big part of control is we're serving our reward the parts of our brains that are rewarded and they want to be rewarded. So we control things so that we can be rewarded. Well, if we're rewarding with great job, or that's the stuff, or you got it, or you figured it, I mean, right there, we are in essence co-signing. And that is us inserting a level of control over our clients and what they, because they're going to want to please. They're going to want to be, that's going to sell them on that even more.
And if you didn't do it this time and you had done it other times, that reward is going to turn into something, you know, that people pleaser person
is like chasing, wanting to get. So it's a sneaky way to assert control. I think one way that us as coach, a lot of us don't even realize. I mean, it's one of the, for sure, the sneakiest, and not, I don't think it's intentional at all, but it's definitely something that can just naturally happen. It's scary.
What do you notice in class when we have that big discussion around compliments, and I mean that's kind of what we're talking about in this moment, a compliment. What do you notice about the students in the class?
Are we speaking about validation here?
I feel like it's a shock to them because I feel like it's a shock because a lot of them want to encourage. I think coming into class for your first time, not knowing too much about life coaching, you want to motivate somebody, you want to validate them. And so it's like I think we showed the video of the guy complimenting everybody and nice cheekbones, things like that. Things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily say. That's somewhat of a validation and a compliment, but as a coach, I think it takes a little bit for them to realize the ultimate effect that could have, like when a client then starts to chase something that they can't have. So it's almost like a realization of, yeah, it might be to compliment somebody because actually people are probably on the nicer aspect, but it needs to be reeled back.
Okay, I have a question.
I want to compliment people.
I do too.
Yeah.
So can we encourage, or I'm sorry, not maybe encourage, can we ask our client how they will celebrate their small wins when we see them happen?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I do.
1000%, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, good, because I do it all the time.
Acknowledging their success too is okay, but like it has to, the way I think about it, I don't know if there's a better way to do it, is after the client says whatever they did was a success or failure. Once they do that, acknowledge it and then follow up like, okay, like how did you celebrate that success? How do you feel about that success or failure? And then go from there. So acknowledging that they feel good about whatever happened is, you're just reading the emotions.
As a control freak, we tell them that it was not good enough. They celebrate. Not only did they not achieve enough to celebrate, but they celebrated wrong.
Or they should feel like they're successful. Right? You should feel success over this.
Now, here's another sneaky one.
Mhm.
What if I have a client that is in a very negative headspace? They've accomplished some things, but they don't believe it. They're beating themselves up. They're going, nah, this wasn't good enough. I want to do better. I can do better. I want to do more. I know I can do better, and they're in this negative space. As a coach, I think there's a lot. It could very easily, especially being empaths, us wanting to get that person to a place of, oh no, see your wins, celebrate, be like, you know what I mean? I could see a lot of coaches trying to cheer somebody up or trying to get them out of that space and into a headspace they deem better.
Mm-hmm.
So I would probably point blank ask them what has them depreciating their accomplishment. Is that wrong?
I think that's a little sneaky, Jen, because there's an assumption in there that they haven't, if we're talking about appreciating and depreciating, that's like a value kind of based words that we're using. So
Mhm.
So
the
neutralize
assumption
that.
that
But
they're
like,
at a certain value, and your assessment is they're depreciating it.
you can do that, Jen, but I think you would have to frame it as an observation. You would have to say,
Right.
can I make an observation?
Yeah.
Because this now you can tell me if this is completely inappropriate, if it's wrong, if it's off base.
Right.
But when you're sharing it right now, what you're saying, it sounds like you are
Mhm.
completely depreciating your accomplishments. And
Is
then,
that true? Yeah. Yeah.
I've had two kind of this is with the same client who's kind of in that headspace. I have two recent kind of examples that went with that. First was they were talking about good enough, where they were worried that like whatever they did wasn't good enough, even though they accomplished it, it's still not good enough. And my question was, okay, when is good enough? Or what is good enough? What will be that point where it's you've reached it, that is good enough, and you are satisfied? And they didn't know. They didn't have an answer for me, and they kind of puzzled over that. That led to a different discussion.
Mhm.
The other one was, well, I know I can do better. There was some variation of that, of I know I can do better. And my question was, how do you know that? What knowledge do you have that you know that you couldn't do better and you didn't? And that time during the conversation, it was more of a challenge on my part.
I have one question.
You're telling me these things. I don't know how you know this. Please tell me more. And the challenge came up where it's like, well, I didn't do better this time because I had X, Y, and Z things happen and the stars weren't aligned perfectly where I could be my best. And my response was, do you ever have control over those X, Y, and Z things? And the answer was no. So like the conclusion that she came with, hopefully I didn't lead her to that conclusion. I'm trying to think about that conversation more, was that she did the best that she could with the situation that was given to her. And that was fine. And then we moved on with the coaching relationship or whatever the conversation was after that. But I think challenging your client's assumptions rather than placating them or encouraging them might be the wiser move in that situation for coaches. So yeah,
Also, though, Anthony, did you stack your questions?
No, I do my absolute best not to do that. I do it on occasion, more than on occasion. I do it very frequently, but I try my damnedest.
It's because it's one of my biggest faux pas that I have to work on. So I notice when you do it too. I'm like, oh, I stacked the question.
Yes, I stack questions quite frequently, and that's probably the control freak in me, because I want to cover all the aspects of a problem. So I'll just throw question after question so I can cover all my bases, and then that leaves my client just like.
What in the heck am I supposed to answer?
Yeah.
Well, and it also sometimes it's for me. It's like they're coming like in one word after another. So like it's like, or I say it and I don't feel like I said it in such a way that maybe they fully understand it. But then I learned to just say it, let it land. However it lands, you gotta let it land.
We have about 5 minutes left, so if the control freak in me will be allowed to, we talk about when a coach can exert control.
Also, one more sneaky control thing. Can I have one more sneaky control thing?
Yes, I'll allow it.
When a coach is worried about asking right or wrong questions.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's a control issue right there. Just let go. There's no right or wrong. Just be.
it's there, and we have this. They're in the comparison place, comparing themselves with someone else that they've seen have great questions, as if they wouldn't have great questions themselves.
The best listener has the best questions, always.
Yep.
So now, when can coaches be a little control freaky?
Contract,
Contract.
payment, rescheduling, scheduling it all in general. How and where you want to have your meetings, your website, your marketing, go forth and be a control freak.
What about inside the coaching session? So all that let's say that's all taken care of externally. When you're sitting
Coaching
down with the
agreement.
client,
You're monitoring time, and
Coaching agreement. Yeah.
returning to the agreement, like Kyle said, we've got to always sort of circle back to whatever that initial agreement was.
Controlling your personal body language, maybe controlling how you're exuding your energy. Those are things that are important.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
well, also when the client wants something that's not coaching, I have clients straight up asking me for advice, and I say, nope, cannot do that. Jen, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I have a scenario. I'm like curious what everyone's going to say. So I had a client wanting to show me something after we started coaching on this particular thing. She hadn't shown anyone it. And so the control freak in me was like, absolutely not. This isn't coaching. We can't do this. But I actually overrided that and I allowed it. And I still had that judgment of like, this isn't coaching. But she had never shared this with anybody. So this was what she needed. And after she shared it with me, she had her breakthrough in like 8 minutes of coaching of exactly what she needed. And had I not let that come through in the way that it did, had I tried to control it, I would have denied her that. So I'm curious what everyone thinks about that.
Yeah, it's trust building.
Wrong. You're wrong.
You,
I mean that is
her,
that
totally
is
gave,
to make. Because any other coach out there who has that situation, you're weighing the benefits of, do I build trust and trust my client and sort of stay on track, or do I control the coaching session a bit more so that we keep track of time? And sometimes it won't work out for you, and the client will just go their merry way on whatever tangent and doesn't really lead to anything. Other times you'll have moments like Jen had where it leads to a breakthrough.
I like the control freak in me likes that it happened in the coaching hour and didn't happen outside of the coaching hour. It wasn't something that they were like, I'll send it to you and you take a look on your time and like that would have bothered me more about it. But in the coaching hour, I'm okay, good with it. Yeah.
I think what that means also is to pay attention, because sometimes your clients think they should be doing this when really, like, for whatever reason, that ability for her to share that piece with you allowed her to really dive down into what she really wanted to work on. Now, I don't know if it was different or not, but you did say it was a dive down in that sense that she got her aha moment afterwards. Mm-hmm. So sometimes even in the coaching sessions, we'll have chit chat, not coaching whatsoever. It just builds rapport. It builds connection. I also gather information from those chit chats, because a lot of the times I can use, a metaphor based on what they've shared. So it can build even deeper dives. So go forth and get off track now and again.
Yeah.
Jerome, Kyle, are there any other moments where it's okay to exert your control as a coach?
No, I actually wanted to speak a little bit about, but we don't have a whole lot of time. I think I let those more controlling here in this conversation take control of the conversation. I was hoping we spoke about the benefits of being less controlling in a session. I know we spoke about kind of identifying who you are, but maybe that's something we can save for a different date. Let's see.
Maybe that's the last thing we share really quick.
Yeah. I guess some ways being less controlling can benefit you in a coaching conversation.
It gives the client freedom.
Right.
And it allows for creativity. It allows for my favorite brainstorming sessions are ones where we're like, we can do anything in the world. You name it. If you want to go to the moon, if you want to fly to another galaxy, fine. In this space, yes is the answer. And then it's let's figure out how to do that. Let's figure out what, where this is not about the all the hows, the ifs, the ands, the what's, the wants. If you want creativity, then you give it freedom. And so relinquishing control allows for that creative brain to run free and wild and discover what's possible.
Yeah. To kind
Relinquish control.
of piggybacking off of that, I think slightly, but also with allowing yourself to kind of relinquish some of that control, it allows you to be more present as a coach in that scenario. Allows you to be a better listener, kind of like what Jen was mentioning earlier, as opposed to you thinking about what the next move is, what the next move should be. You're there, you're present, which is, I think, half the battle when it comes to being a coach.
When I would design, I would deliberately not look at work that has been done like the work I am doing. Like, I might look at some things for inspiration, but I deliberately would not do it because I didn't want that to influence what I was going to create. Right? I wanted it, whatever I created, to just come from this authentic place and not from this place where I'm like knocking somebody off, or I'm taking something somebody did and twisting it or manipulating it. I would deliberately sort of not look at other people and what they were doing so that I could create my own thing uninfluenced and freedom. So, yeah.
Quick one for me. Benefit of not having so much control is less stress. The session is just there on its own. You get through it, you get it done, and you don't have to think about it until the next session. Whereas with control, you're probably hemming and worrying away about how well this session's going and if this person's going to succeed or not. You just let all that go. You can worry about other things in your life that are in your control.
Yeah.
And that works outside the session too. Like just letting that session be and not being attached to outcomes and what your client's success and failures. Unless
you're doing mentor coaching and you're trying to get your ACC like I am, then you worry about your sessions all the time.
Kyle?
Oh, we cannot hear you. You're quiet. We can't hear you.
Oh,
He's
no.
lost control of his voice.
I'll kind of I'll also piggyback off of what Anthony said. With that, you mentioned did you say there was less stress, right? That's what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, less stress. I think also that translates to more confidence in your coaching sessions. And yeah, I think you're just a little less afraid as to what potential outcomes can be. I think those kind of all work with each other in presenting yourself as a confident coach in session.
Jen?
I think that there's an act of surrender that happens every time I coach. And it's like this full surrender to, I trust this process, and whatever comes from this process is meant to happen. And that is like the exact opposite of the control freak in me. The control freak is like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that's crazy. But the truth is that when I go into the session with that level of surrender, that is when clearly the client is, I don't want to say receiving the best coaching from me that they can, but they're receiving the best coaching from me that they can when I'm in that mode of surrender rather than control. If I try to control the session, it won't typically play out the same way, or it won't flow the same. It won't have the same feeling. Yeah, I've felt the differences of the sessions with surrender and control, and it's all day letting go.
Yeah. Okay. Did everybody go? Brooke, did you say? I think you did.
Yes, I did.
Anthony did.
Yeah.
Did.
We lost Kyle, who can't unmute, and we want to hear what he has to say, and he is not here.
Can't hear him.
So shall we signs off then?
We shall.
Yep.
Should.
It's great seeing you guys again. We will be joining you guys per usual next week. So don't have to worry about us not joining you guys this coming Tuesday. We'll be here for you guys. Excited to have you guys all join. I guess make sure you subscribe, comment, share, like, please, all those good things. It really helps us out a lot. And
Join our classes if you haven't.
join our classes if you haven't. Absolutely.
It's fun. All right, guys.
All right. See you later.
Guys, next Tuesday, same time, 4 Pacific Standard. All right, everybody.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Once again, this is brought to you by Certified Life Coach Institute. We're an ICF accredited school who certifies our life coaches in 3-day online intensive courses. In addition to other podcast episodes, feel free to check us out every Tuesday at 4:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube or Facebook for our CLCI Lives, where we get together and discuss various topics that are centered around sharpening your skills so you can become a better certified life coach. For more information, feel free to visit us at CertifiedLifeCoachInstitute.com. Until next time, be well.